Aha! There we go. It appears to be some sort of stream. Oh, in a second. Wait a minute. There we go. Make sure I got everything set up the way I want it. It's a stream. Yes. Ah. Everything is fine. We're all fine here on this fine Monday evening, afternoon, or whatever it is in your region. If it walks like a stream, it looks like a stream, it quacks like a stream, it is a stream. Wait a minute. It tastes like a stream. Yeah. Ah, a cup of tea. Much better. Yeah. So yeah, I figure don't have taster vision yet. Not yet. I don't know. Are we working on that technology? Surely. We might be. I don't know. But yeah. Figured I would play around today with just hanging out and chatting, and we'll get to some games if I feel like it. And Haven, hello, and Red, and Drew as well, and anyone else who may be watching along now or later. Yeah. We're still playing Inscription, still enjoying that. May do some of that today, but I was like, I just want to just kind of hang out and chill today, and all that. And I hope you've had a good week, a good weekend. Hope those of you who are playing Tears of the Kingdom are having a good time. I've been watching a little bit of HP stream it because he's been streaming that a lot. In fact, I believe he's streaming it right now in an unusual time slot for him. Man, I'm sure he can quit anytime he likes. Oh, awesome, Haven. That's fantastic. Yeah. Ah, man. Dredge is a lot of fun. I realized I completed it, like, it was maybe a couple of days or like the day after I completed it. It was its first update with like map markers and so on. It's like, well, that's timing for you. So I gotta, yeah. But I mean, there's really no point for me to go back to that until they release some DLC, unfortunately, because I'm done. I guess I could 100% it, but that's fine. Pardon me. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, like with Tears of the Kingdom, I know it's going to be a while before if I ever play it, because I don't have a Switch, and I would want to play. It's a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, so I feel like you got to play Breath of the Wild first. You got to play that. So I'd have to get through that first. And I've only been watching like little bits here and there because I don't want to like fully spoil myself, because I don't know, it's a very pardon me. It's a very like it's a long shot that I get around to it at all. It might not be for a while, but I do feel bad that I'm missing out on Zelda stuff, because oh man, I was very into many Zelda things back in the day. So you know, it would be something I would like to get to it at some point. I don't want to give too much away because I know Red's trying to not be in spoilers, but there's an element of like people have been able to do some very silly things with it so far, and that's been entertaining. I've seen a few like things come across my timeline on Twitter or other places. It's like, oh, that's as much as I'll say. People have been getting up to some serious shenanigans, which is great. Darkest Dungeon is my... Oh, jam, yes. Darkest Dungeon is my ham. What does that mean? I don't know. Yeah. That, I think, is next on my list, is Darkest Dungeon 2. Darkest 2 Dungeon. Tokyo Drift. Because, yeah, it's out now 1.0. So I can get it on Steam, I suppose. And it is... I definitely enjoyed the first one. I don't think I ever actually beat it, because it is a punishing game that will just destroy you. So, at some point. But yeah, I want to keep going with Inscription because it's been fun so far. And very interesting, and I clearly cannot predict what's going to happen, which is always fun. What is this going on? WoW patch is good. Age of Wonders 4, pretty good. Good. Games Ahoy, excellent. I like it when games are good. Yeah, that was, I think, the real problem. It's not just punishing, but it's grindy and punishing. And so, yeah, it's very easy to get kind of like burnt out on it. I was like, oh god. So, I don't know if that's any different in Darkest Dungeon 2, but I enjoyed the rest of the game enough that I'll definitely check out Darkest Dungeon 2. Jumping from obsession to obsession lately. Yeah. Relatable content. Oh, House of Leaves. I've only heard of House of Leaves by reputation. Although that's not true. I was watching a video about, it was from Super Eye Patch Wolf, about liminal horror, and there was a big chunk of that went into House of Leaves a little bit, and I have a slightly better idea of the kind of utter batshit kind of book that is, and it sounds really intriguing. So maybe, I don't know. It sounds very weird in a very fun way. Yeah. I have that. Ah, is that what got you back to reading it? Excellent. Yeah, no, I hadn't watched much of his stuff, but I got, was it recommended or did I find it through a thread somewhere about the pipeline? I think it was a video about Riverdale. I was like, oh, you know, this, and I ended up watching that whole thing, which was insane. For I am Cheryl, Queen of the Bees, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch some other things. So yeah, I watched the one about liminal horror, which was very interesting, and yeah, it was good stuff. Yeah, I don't follow too many of like the, I don't know. I guess you would say that that Super Hyperactive Wolf is a video essayist, and there are a number of them on the YouTubes that are like fairly popular. Yeah, there are many more that I want to watch, and I'm sure I'll get around to it at some point. But yeah, it was very well presented, and it was very entertaining. So I'm like, okay, this is someone whose video essays I can actually stand to watch. You know? So yeah. And they're not like, well, they're not the sort of Noah Caldwell Gervais super long ones, which is, there's nothing wrong with those, but those are always very intimidating to me to watch. Yeah, and it's not, yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't go super overboard on length. Yeah. I'm just gonna pull up the YouTube channel and have a look at like how long some of these videos are. Yeah, they're like the longest ones are like 2 hours, something like that, and that's fine. And then they're usually like 30 to 40 minutes or something like that, and that's a good digestible length, I think. And there are plenty of ones that are like 20 minutes as well, which is even better. Hey, what is that? Aw, cute bunny. It's a very cute emote. Hey. Yeah, H-Bomber Guy, I've watched, I'm not like sub to H-Bomber Guy. I've watched a couple of his videos. Bunny. And they're, yeah. Yeah, it's alright, Pix, it's fine. Ah! The hugs. Oh my god. Like someone could fit the full Simpsons into a 3-minute video is a blessing. Yeah. So, man, I definitely... 30-minute videos. Yeah, fit into 3 minutes is even more impressive. But, like, okay, so my thing is that I studied... Well, I kind of studied communication at university. I did a primarily physics degree with a science communication like course in it, or it was a with degree. If I yeah, it was like 75% science, 25% media, and very quickly realized that the media side was actually the only stuff I found interesting. But means I have opinions about content and, like, you know, I guess video essays, and how you know, you should actually structure them and not just because the ones that are just like a 2-hour dump of stuff. They just like start going and clearly haven't actually like worked it or made it in, you know, constructed it into a form that actually works. They clearly haven't thought about it. They just sort of started recording, didn't really edit anything out, and then just put it up. Or like didn't, you know, work through their points, or, you know, that sort of thing. I have high standards for those, is what I'm saying. So yeah, and being able to be concise is definitely a skill. It really is. And so I think that's why you see a lot of like the sort of more amateur ones are really long, because it's hard to condense points down and present them in a clear way in a short amount of time. So that's why I think I gravitate to those ones more than like the really long ones. Not that those are all bad. That's certainly not true. Many actually have a whole lot of work put into them, because there's a lot to cover in all sorts of topics, really. Yeah, but you know, that's just how I tend to think about it. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, what are the ones that I should watch? There was one I was going to. I think the next on my list was there was something like, yeah, there was one about villains in wrestling from Super Eye Patch Wolf. I should watch that one. And I don't know, other stuff. Bizarre modern reality of stuff, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I've been watching a few of those, and I'm sure I will watch some more in the future. It's just nice to have some stuff to watch, actually, because I don't have a lot of ongoing media to consume, which is fine. But, so, you know, I can't keep going back to the well of, like, you know, old Star Trek episodes or things like that too often. It's like, I want something new. So, you know, find that sort of thing. Oh, new Demon Slayer series. I will confess, I'm not. I'm very not a weeb, unfortunately. I don't mean, you know, it's not like an intentional decision. I actually watch a lot of anime. Like, I like a lot of the classic stuff that came out a long time ago, but I'm not like keeping up on current trends and whatnot, I'm sorry to say. But, you know, I'm glad that that's coming out. I definitely see people talk about Demon Slayer a fair bit, and how they seem to enjoy that. That and, like, what are the two, like, popular ones? That and Chainsaw Man. That are those seem to be very popular at the moment, so that's good. God, I feel like it feels like such a such a sort of such a dad comment. It's like, well, you enjoying one of your Japanese animes? Are you winning, son? It's just not, not something I pay that much attention to. It's the way it is. Very bad at watching media as it comes out. Yeah, that's also a thing. Still, nothing wrong with waiting a while. ADHD says no. There is a lot. There is a lot. I think I find like the thing with. I mean, I don't have a preference one way or the other. Like if they dump it all at once, or if watching it weekly. I don't mind watching stuff weekly actually, because it helps to add a bit of structure to things. So I'm like, okay, it's Thursday. That means that there's an episode of this, and I can look forward to that, and gives you time to digest it in between weeks. But also, if you're like, I just want to watch like the whole thing, yeah. I do notice. I noticed this when I was watching Picard, though, that there are like there are like trends with this kind of with the weekly release stuff. It's really easy to tell when a show is trying to string you. Well, yeah, trying to get you to watch next week. It's just kind of stringing you along with the mystery of the thing, and that happens a few times in that show, where it's like, and here's the cliffhanger at the end of this episode. We're gonna the cliffhanger for the mystery reveal, and then next episode it's like half of it is a flashback or another thing, and then the mystery is not revealed, and then it's again at the end of this. Like, set it up, they don't pay it off. They keep setting it up, and then pay it off right at the end. Very much like, the kind of media that is trying to get you to watch next week rather than making an entertaining show for this week. And it's like, oh, that's no good. True, we watched X14 came out yesterday, both of their downsides. True, it's true. It's not, one is better than that. They have their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. I try not to give a shit about the social pressure, try not to but it's like, oh, have you watched this yet? Have you watched this yet? I'm like, no, not yet. I will get around to it. I'm also guilty of being like, oh, you should totally watch this. But, yeah. Oh, Andor was definitely a show that was very intense to binge watch. And I'm kind of glad it was spaced out, because it's a lot of intense stuff in each episode, and if you try to binge watch that, it's like, oh boy, oh no. Oh no. But yeah, I think these days I try to be a bit better about recommending stuff to people, because I think I don't know, I'll mostly it's like I will only try to recommend things that I know that I have when I have a better idea of if that person will actually like it or not. And if someone is going like, oh, well, everyone else seems to be liking this, I guess I should watch that. It's like, only if you think you will enjoy it. It's like, it's okay if you don't. I understand the sort of like intentional or unintentional peer pressure of everyone else is into this thing, but it's okay. I'm not gonna think you're weird if you don't want to watch it or you don't, whatever. Oh right, Dracula Daily started up again. British versus slow release. I think the reason Dracula Daily works for that is because it's a lot of small things. And it's daily. So you get a little bit of something every day. Rather than it being like weekly or something. You know. You can have your daily hit of Dracula. Oh, Re-Dracula, which is a podcast version. Oh, interesting. You know, I'm a little surprised that they went with I wasn't expecting them to do it again. You know, I wasn't expecting Dracula Daily to come back, as it were. I was maybe expecting, I was like, maybe if they do something else, it'll be a different book. But yeah, sure, why not? Bringing it back. Because there's, I mean, part of the reason it works is because of the format. Is you know, we're getting letters from Jonathan. Oh, it's been going for a long time. Oh, okay. Just got popular last year. Yeah, okay. I wonder if there are other ones then. If there are other similar things. You know, is there like a Frankenstein Daily or a... I'm trying to think of other, you know, classic horror literature like that. And it would have to be Fortnightly Frankenstein. Rather than Dracula Daily. Frankenstein every 2 weeks. There's Whale Weekly, which is Moby Dick. Oh, perfect. Gotta get my new issue of Whale Weekly. As we know, famously, Moby Dick, just a simple story about a man who really hates a whale. Well, there was a style. It was I don't know if it was a trend or if it was a style at the time, much like tying an onion to one's belt. Of the, what is there a word for it? Is there a phrase for it? But it is that style of stories being told in letter form, epistolary novels. That's what it was. I could not think of epistolary. Right. Yeah. A novel written as a series of letters. Yes. And it was... Yes, it became popular in the 18th century, according to Wikipedia. And it slowly became less popular after the 18th century. Yeah. So, you know, I'm sure it still gets used today in certain certain places. But it was definitely a thing. Although, yeah, actually... Dracula was 19th century, so it was a while after that, you know, really became popular. Yeah. Printed in 1897. It's, yeah, letters, diary entries, newspaper clippings, telegrams, doctor's notes, ship's logs, all that sort of thing. Yeah. I think, because I remember I tried to read Dracula once a long time ago. And I had a hard time getting through it because of that. I think partly because of the format. And then I remember Frankenstein, which I did manage to read, because I think I read it for school. But the funny thing about the difference between Dracula and Frankenstein's like format, like Dracula is, as I understand it, a series of, you know, you have a newspaper clipping, you have a letter, a ship's log. Frankenstein is like nested. From what I recall, Frankenstein is like, you know, nested letters and diaries. So it's all framed as like a sort of a letter to someone, but then within that there is another letter and another. We have to go deeper, and it's very weird in that way. Yeah, Frankenstein asked the reader to get out the board and the red string. Kinda, yeah. Epistolary fanfic with like text or group chats. I guess, yeah, I guess that is a modern version of epistolary fanfic, right? Or fiction. Yeah. Oh yeah, here we are. I just looked up the wiki for Frankenstein. It goes, right, Captain Walton's introductory narrative. And then we go to Victor Frankenstein's narrative, then the creature's narrative, then back to Victor Frankenstein, then back to Captain Walton. So you go in and then out again. I get Alice is missing epistolary RPG. Oh yeah, I have read about that one. I've looked into that, and that's where you piece together things through text chats. Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, it's basically, yeah, Frankenstein is a kind of Russian nesting doll, Matryoshka doll. That's what they're called. of narratives. A mystery wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a letter to the captain or whatever. Homestuck is half that. Wow. Look, Homestuck is cheating because it's, as far as I know, it's basically every kind of story all at once. I don't know. I've never read a Homestuck. I've never smoked a whole Homestuck. Multimedia. There you go. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I don't know. Maybe it is. Look, at this point, I don't know precisely what Homestuck really is, and I'm too afraid to ask. And that's not an invitation for anybody to explain it to me. I actually don't care. But yeah, it certainly is a thing. Well, they're like, where do you draw that line? Yeah. Is it like House of Leaves? Of course. Oh yeah, let me give you the. I'm just reading the wiki for Frankenstein and how it starts, and it's taken me back. I remember some of this. Yeah, Homestuck is that thing that all people who've read Homestuck think everything else is referencing to. Guy who's only read Homestuck, getting a lot of Homestuck vibes from this. That's not unique to that at all. Yeah. But yeah, here we are. Frankenstein is a frame story written in an epistolary form. It documents a fictional correspondence between Captain Robert Walton and his sister. The story takes place in the 18th century. Robert Walton is a failed writer who sets out to explore the North Pole in hopes of expanding scientific knowledge. During the voyage, the crew spots a dog sled being chased by a helicopter. Driven by a gigantic figure. A few hours later, the crew rescues a nearly frozen and emaciated man named Victor Frankenstein. In pursuit of the gigantic man observed by Walton's crew, and he starts to recover, and he sees Walton has the same obsession that's destroyed him, and he recounts the story of his life's miseries to Walton as a warning. And that serves as the frame for Frankenstein's narrative. So we start out with a letter from the captain to his sister being like, I'm at the North Pole, trying to do some science, and then this guy shows up, and then we into Frankenstein and such. Cool. Yeah, I remember this. It's going all right. Let's not see. Just hanging out, taking it easy today. I got some deliveries. Hey, Stephanie. I got a replacement for the mini sort of exercise bike, which I no, you can't see that there. Whatever, because it broke. It was old and busted, so I got a new one that is not old and busted. It's the kind of thing that can fit under the desk, so I'll I might do that. So yeah, was putting that together and whatnot. Oh, there's merch. Of course, Devolver Digital made Inscription merch. Oh, like an actual card pack. Oh, that's fun. That's cute. Ah, the props. Of course, right. The props that our guy was using. Oh yeah, that had to be a thing. Very cool. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I haven't actually tried this one underneath this desk. It's probably fine. Yeah, is there a Hollow Mantis God? Yeah, those are worth money. Those are worth like $100. Yeah. So before people start trying to for real play Inscription, the card game, yeah. I mean, there's enough. There's an actual card game in there. They could, like, Devolver could, if they wanted to, like, actually make Inscription the card game. I'm pretty sure they could. Yeah. But, damn. I guess they would have to be sure it would sell well enough. You know, all those usual cost analyses that people have to do. Not balanced for competitive play? Probably not. I get you could maybe make it like a board game sort of thing, you know, not a competitive card game, but like a board game sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. I just know that it functions pretty well. Ah, good. Oh, they are doing that for Slay the Spire. Interesting. Yeah, make some, you know, ancillary products and make a little bit of extra cash. Why not? Oh yeah, presumably it has. Definitely, it feels like there's been like a lot of those kind of roguelike or similar games. You know, it's a thing now to use a card-based game. You know, it shows up in a lot of places, and that may just be a trend. But I know from like watching some stuff about game design and whatever that, you know, it's often where often using cards is where game design starts. Or that, you know, they use like an actual deck of like playing cards and try and build up some mechanics that way. So they just kind of stick with the cards all the way through. The Vampire Survivor games. Right. I mean, XCOM first prototyped as a board game. That is not surprising, yeah. Did they ever make an XCOM board game? Seems like it would be like they did. They made 2. Oh, excellent. One needed a smartphone app, of course. Yeah, like an XCOM board game would remind me of something like Kill Team, or you know, what's your percentage to hit, and you know, you roll the thing, and is it over, under, or whatever. Oh, that's right, they did. Oh, now I remember. Yes, they played it on AFK. The one with the app. Yes, I remember now. I remember seeing some clips of that. Yeah. Right. What is the status of XCOM these days? Because it's been a while since. When was XCOM 2? 2016. Yeah, it's been a minute. No, wait. The other one was what was the other one? Chimera Squad. That was it. That was okay. That was from 2020. That was from 3 years ago. So that's not bad. So that definitely was I mean, that was a fun one. It definitely felt like a side game. But I wonder... Oh, man. I wonder what the state of things are now if they're working on something new. Didn't do very well. I mean, I could believe that. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was up to the same standards as XCOM 2. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah. Now let's see, reception. Showed what happens after war. Interesting angle we rarely see. I mean, it's really common in so many different kinds of media all over the place. Like, the conflict gets resolved as the climax of the whatever it is, movie, game, TV show, whatever, and that's the catharsis and the you know, resolution, and that's where it stops. And if we see anything after that, it has to be in a different show or a different thing, you know. Yeah, and then we go like cut to credits, or there's like a little bit of afterwards, and then we fade away. So yeah, what do we do after that point? Yeah, and then in the sequel you find a new point of tension. Yeah, now there's a new conflict. Very rarely do you stay in the, you know, do you stay in the space of what happens after the conflict, like fairly immediately after the conflict is resolved, because you know it's something happens, you know, the bad guy dies, or we stop the aliens, or whatever, and then I think it's just, I don't know if that goes against like whatever conventional storytelling wisdom is, which may or may not be, you know, accurate, or if it's just that's a lot more difficult to write. Could be both, really, you know. More stakes for smaller, more focused stories. They do that in some of the, yeah. Well, that's mostly in like the anything that isn't a movie, more or less, for Star Wars. Like the TV shows and whatever. Yeah, it's often. Oh god, but this is just reminding me of it, that it's something I remember that we really respected, that Farscape did in several points, where they had the whole romance angle between John and Aaron, and then they spend a good chunk of that, like, well, there's a lot of build up of that, and a lot of like tension and a lot of back and forth, but they do eventually, spoilers, but whatever. They do eventually, pay it off and sit with it for a while. We see what they're like together. Actually, twice, actually. Right. Season 3 and then season 4. And I feel like Farscape did that a fair bit, where it took what would be something like the whole clone storyline in season 3. Season 3? Was that season 3? I think that was season 3. Where that would normally be entirely wrapped up at the end of the episode, and that would, it's like, everyone's back together and there are no more clones anymore. It's like, nope, we've just got 2 Johns now, and we're gonna ride with that for a bit. And we're gonna split the party. Some people going with 1 John, some people going with the other one. And we're going to sit that down. And we're going to go all the way through it. Until... well, something. Just let it by offhand mentions. Learning by osmosis. That's one way to do it. Yeah, it wasn't afraid to shake up the status quo, which was really impactful. And very different at the time. They were like, nah, your status quo. Boop. It did take a while to get that going, because they did spend a lot of time, first couple seasons, particularly the first season, there were a lot of, it was, episodic content being thrown into the deep end, Here's a thought for you. Farscape is technically an isekai. For you anime fans out there. John Crichton gets isekai'd into the arse end of the galaxy with a bunch of weird aliens. Portal fancy? I mean, what? Okay, what's the difference? That's a very fine line between the two of those things. Whatever. Same diff. No truck. That's right. That's right. It doesn't get hit by a truck. That is an important distinction, as I understand. What are wormholes if not the trucks of space? Huh? Prove me wrong. Yeah. Potholes of space. And what runs over potholes? Trucks. Checkmate. Aha. Aha. Yeah. But I think that's the that's the thing about when you when you watch something like that and then you go and watch, some Star Trek or something else, where there are so many episodes of particularly of Star Trek where really traumatic things happens to people. I say people, mostly it's Miles O'Brien, but it happens to them, and then it's all wrapped up at the end of the episode, and then we shall never speak of it again. And it's like, really? Because it seems like that would affect you going forwards. Spending like 20 years in a fake mind jail Yes, actually, Pix. Family is a really good episode because it's one of the few times where they actually deal with that, and it's the trauma from Picard being turned into Locutus. And that is, I recall reading they had to fight to get that made or something. Like it was maybe tough to actually, convince the studio to go for it. But I'm so glad they did because it was really good. It was a good episode. And it's like, yeah, getting turned into a robot alien or getting turned into a Borg and being used to murder a bunch of people, that would mess with you. And it's kind of weird that we just go right back to business as usual. Yeah. And so when you see other shows like start to deal with these sorts of things, you're like, yeah, wait a minute. It's kind of messed up. We never we just assume that everything is fine next episode. But that was the style of TV at the time. It was made often that it could be broadcast, or you could tune in at any week and not and pick up what's going on, Yeah. No scene set on the bridge. But yeah. That's just not how TV works anymore. Not really. Well, not genre, what we consider genre TV. I'm sure that's true for a lot of like soaps and stuff like that, or like police procedural shows. The acronym shows, NCIS, CSI, whatever other ones are going on at the moment. It was a running joke in the Farscape podcast about the Babylon 5 rewatch podcast, and I'm not going to do I don't want to do another. I'm not editing another fucking podcast, but I feel like I should watch Babylon 5 at some point, because I have not, and it seems, very foundational in that kind of storytelling. Oh no, Red. Oh no. We have to. I'm not editing another one. I'm not doing it. I'm not editing. You're not editing. If I could afford to pay, I'm not going back. Listen, I enjoyed it. I'm very proud of it, but I'm not going back to the editing mines. I did my time. I did my time in the editing mines. Oh, that's the thing. But you see, this is the problem, is that as I said earlier, when it came to like video essays, whatever, I have high standards. I have high standards for anything like that I would put out. So I'm not going to go record, chatting for a bit. I will wait until I can afford to pay somebody to edit before I use an AI to do something like that, or anything, in fact. Nah, I would rather pay somebody. But yeah. No, you can't make me go back. Yeah. But yeah, no. I will say, we're actually just getting together and talking about it and not recording it might be fun, like a book club. That could be, yeah, not a bad idea. Turns out you don't have to make everything into content. But then surely that means you're not, on the hustle grind set, monetizing your whatever and maximize. No. Refuse. I refuse to engage with that. But yeah, so I'm bringing it up because that was the, you know, that was the joke on the Farscape podcast, I think. Because I think I came up several times where we joked about the Babylon 5 rewatch. And see, we already did it. We already did it in the April Fool's episode. That's all you get. That's all you get is the little snippet in the middle of that episode. See, this is the thing. Okay, that April Fool's episode, if you've listened to the podcast, you know what I'm talking about. But I said, like, I did my time in the editing mines. I enjoyed recording the podcast. Editing it was just dull, and I had I had to really drag myself through the mud to do that. It was a challenge. So of course, naturally, I made more work for myself by doing an April Fool's episode where we went through basically a kind of multiverse of different rewatch podcasts and had to edit all those together with transitions and skits in between each of them as an additional episode apart from the ones we were normally doing. Because when I was like, oh god, do I have to edit this? I just was like, let's do a whole other episode. And that's an insight into how my brain works. And yes, I'm very pleased with how it came out. Yeah. Just the thing, okay, so to be real, the thing about like editing a podcast like that is it's not difficult work. It's not particularly, for me, I don't find it like challenging or difficult. It's just very dull. And I had a hell of a time just forcing myself to sit down and do it. Because I have a very hard time doing that with things I don't enjoy. And when there isn't anybody... It was the fact that there was just enough pressure to get me to do it, which was like, you said you were going to release this every week, and we did. So, you know, it's not difficult work, but I think because it's not challenging, I was just like, oh boy, I gotta get through all of this. Let's see who's been ruining my life. It's me! Yeah. So, you know. And it was the fact that it was weekly, I think, was probably also a mistake on that front. Because, I mean, it would have taken a lot longer to come out otherwise. But when you consider that you have... My rule for editing at the time, and I think this is still true, because I don't think the tools are going to help you much. I don't think they've changed that much anyway. But it was like, however long your recording is, it's going to take you at least twice as long to edit it, if you want to do a good job. So we would routinely have like a 90-minute recording, and so that would take you 3 hours to edit the whole thing. And to get that down to like a 45-minute podcast or something like that. So it was like, however much recording time you got, double it at least. And then that's how long it's going to take you to edit it. And so it wasn't a ton of work, but it was just like, I had to drag my brain through it. Yeah. There are many things I've learned about myself that I'm like, there are certain types of tasks that I really struggle with, because I have to drag my brain through it, you know? It's like, no, we're going to do this. It's like, yes, but I'm not having fun. It's like, I don't care. Yeah. It's like I've been trying to I've been trying to do expand my cooking repertoire to do more recipes and make actual proper dinners rather than just boiling up some ready-made like filled pasta in a pot and eating that. And I hate it. I hate it so much. Every time I try to cook something that's like a proper recipe and there are steps and there's a whole, you know, thing, it works. I very rarely have completely failed at that, but I hate it every time. I'm just like, this is stressing me out. I've got it's trying to balance several different, you know, like spinning like 3 plates at once. So yeah, I don't do well with that. And trying to go through and trying to like stick to a task that I don't find exciting or challenging. I think I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm just saying. This is one of the reasons. Anyway, it's like trying to, yeah. So, you know, there you go. Pretty sure about that. Something like that. I gotta look into that more seriously. Some number of letters are going on up in here. I don't know where. I don't know which ones, but it's something. So yeah, man. Alphabet soup. Yep. Something like that. Yeah. Because I remember I was talking about like this idea of like with with my mum was like, oh yeah, you know, maybe you could do, you know, once in a while, or maybe on like a Friday or something, you could try to do. It's like, no, it has to be every week. It has to be every Friday. I have to make it a thing that it has to be every Friday that I try something new or I try something different, because otherwise I will not do it. Otherwise it just won't happen. Or it'll happen like once or twice and then I will just not do it ever again. You know? And it's that's part of why I was like, you know, I want to get the mini exercise bike again, because that it's like, if that's there, you know, if I have it in front of me, I will do it because it's right there and I don't have to, you know, go anywhere or go out or do anything like that. Zoom call for the 20th anniversary of a webcomic used to read. The basis of what my friend groups are built on. Oh, it's her. Oh, cool. I got my Ashton at the bus. During the call, I was like, oh, wow, we all have ADHD. We just find each other online, I guess. Yeah. That is definitely, you know, at least anecdotally, a thing. It's like, wow, everyone in my friend group has some form of ADHD. Or something. What a coincidence. I'm sure there's nothing to read into that or anything at all. I'm sure it's just entirely a coincidence. And these congregates like every Discord server. Yeah. All most drawn to the dopamine boxes. Yeah. Yeah, I try not to. I try to rein myself in on like self-diagnosing, because I know it can be a rocky road, or or a slippery slope. Those two are not a mudslide. That's what it is. But you know, I've read. There are enough commonalities that I'm like, something's got to be going on. And this, you know, it's like there's more to investigate here. We must investigate further. But you know, yeah, I know about official assessments. There are a number of assessments I've seen online, and I've tried many of them. And And so I've tried those for ADHD and also for OCD, because I've recently realized like, oh, there's actually maybe some, and both of those are like mild to strong, depending a bit on the test, but like mild to strong signs that, you know, mild to strong symptoms or results or whatever. And those always stress like, this is not a proper diagnosis, this is just a first step, and it cannot be diagnosed other than by a doctor. So, you know. But I've tried a bunch of them, and they often are like moderate to, don't think severe, never got a severe result on any of them, but yeah, mostly sort of in the moderate range. So, and it was fun learning that OCD and ADHD have a high level of, or a reasonably high level of comorbidity as well, and that it is perfectly possible to have both. So that would be a fun combo. Yeah. There's that self-diagnosis cycle some get stuck in, where you go in to take the test to find a certain answer and it affects answers. Brains are dumb. Yeah, brains are dumb. Brains are weird. Brains are very weird. Yeah. It doesn't it definitely doesn't help that a lot of the specifically for ADHD in this country, a lot of the questionnaires or materials are very focused on it in children, and it's getting better. It's definitely getting better, but a lot of the questionnaires, like a while ago, my brother actually got assessed and diagnosed with ADHD, and like I actually helped out by filling in a questionnaire, but a lot of it was like about childhood behavior, and it's like so weird. Helps to do the part where you list out the symptoms you're experiencing in different realms. I did that from a doctor, part of whatever it was. I wrote this list in 15 minutes right before this appointment because I put it off so long. Please, you don't have to call me. So I'd find someone that wants to assess adults. Yeah, and yeah, there's a wait list and everything. So it's tricky. It took me 1 to 2 years to schedule this appointment. Should also be a strong indicator. Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Oh god, the putting off the last minute thing, I am so bad about that. That is really common thing for me to do. Like to the point where I'm sometimes like, this is the only way I can actually get anything done is under immediate pressure of time and failure. Which I think is part of why editing the podcast was so difficult. Because it was like I couldn't get it done until like the day before, because I was, you know, it's like, oh, it'll be fine, I have to do it now. But that was the only way I could get it done. Would you do X with a gun to your head jokes on you? That's when I perform the best. Jokes on you. That's the only time I can perform. That's the only time I can do anything. Why does it always take me to the last fucking minute to do my tax returns? Despite the fact I could do them tomorrow. No, I will do them on January 31st, 2024. Because. Why? Because. There's no reason not to do it tomorrow. It won't make any difference, but no, I gotta put it off until the last second so that I can actually do it. This isn't a great way to live, let me tell you. doom scroll website of choice. It's true. It's always like the thought, and it's not a direct one, but it's always like, but I don't have to do it now. It's like, so do you only do things when you have to do them? Kind of, sometimes, a lot of things. It's like, yeah, but I could be doing something else that I want to do, that I enjoy doing. Instead of doing my taxes or whatever else. And you're like, you know, you make a good point. You just have the devil on your shoulder going like, "Would thou like to live deliciously?" You're like, huh? Yeah, if I don't have to do it right now, it gets pushed. I can argue with myself trying to sleep to do it tomorrow and then not do it. Oh, tomorrow is always my busiest day of the week. Like, tomorrow is always really busy. No matter what day of the week it is. It's like, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Yes. Definitely. I can't set my own deadlines because I know the guy that set those and they're full of shit. Yeah, and self-motivation, deadlines, like, does not work. It doesn't work. It has to be an external deadline or an external force that is imposing something on me, because I'm not afraid to let myself down. I have no problems disappointing myself. I do it all the time. You know. But you know. So we're basically putting everything off. Yep. And it's always tomorrow. And it's never actually done. It's always like, nope, tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. But yeah, it has to be an external motivation. It's the Terminator. I cannot self-motivate. Like, help yourself. Set your own deadlines. I sleep. Somebody else needs me to do something. Real shit. Like, brain. Yeah. Dopamine. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I think I remember that. I remember Ben talking about that. It's like, when do you want to schedule? When do you want to do this? It's like, no. You tell me the schedule, give me the deadlines, and then things will get done. Yeah. Yep. Like, no, you gotta tell me. You gotta give me a schedule, or this just won't happen. Yeah. It's a constant struggle. Like, left to my own devices, yeah, it is really hard to actually do things consistently. So, yeah. Tell me I'll get fired if I miss it. Yeah. Tell me that you really need me to get it done by this specific date. You know? And they're like, okay, I have to do this now. Yeah. I will do it like the night before, but I will do it. I will do it. You tell me when the thing is and we'll go, yeah. It's funny because the again, this is just from reading about ADHD, and this is not advice or diagnosis or anything like that. But the stereotype is that, and this is often true for people with ADHD, that they will forget about appointments, they will be late to something, they will miss something because they forgot about it because their brain has been distracted by something else, or it doesn't, whatever. And it's not the case with me. But then what happens is, for some people, they will then they will develop an obsessive need to be on time as a coping mechanism as a coping mechanism, because it's like, I know that I am bad. I know that I won't remember this. So I have developed an obsession about this appointment as a coping mechanism. So I am always on time, and trying to be on time, you know, that is important, and it's stressful if I'm not. Like, I'm often early to things, and it does the the same. It does. I always start doing the the sort of the calculations as soon as I get an appointment. I'm like, okay, my appointment is at 1 o'clock, let's say. My appointment's at 1. The train takes me an hour to get there on the train, so I have to leave at 12. It takes me 10 minutes to get from my house to the train station, so I have to leave the house no later than 11:50. It takes me maybe, let's say, 20 minutes to get ready in the morning, so I have to get ready. I have to wake up at 11:30, and and I have to wake up no later than 11:30. I'm going to go, which means I have to go to bed at this time, which is due to this, and I have no time to do anything else. I was like, this is all. I can't interrupt that with anything else, because if you put another thing in the middle of that, it throws me off entirely. I'm like, no, this is all we're doing today. This one thing. And that's the thing, right? For me, it makes no difference what kind of appointment it is. Yeah, what do you mean do something? I have an appointment in 5 hours. Exactly. Yep. And that's the coping mechanism for otherwise the appointment would just not happen. It would just go and disappear. Yeah. Yeah, it's Yup. Recurring appointments always a struggle. Single appointments go full hyperfocus. Yeah, I don't have like too many like regular appointments. The closest is actually like doing streams, but yeah. Or like D&D games, I guess. But that's usually fine. Well, I have a similar kind of thing, but not to that extent. If it's regular, I know that there's, you know, I'm entirely sure what day it is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that for my regular like 8 weekly appointments that were for the infusions and now for the sort of the study, for the Crohn's stuff, that they would text or email like a week before to be like, hey, reminder, this is happening at this date. I'm like, right, it is. Okay. So yeah, that is a helpful thing. This is what's going to be difficult about, so far so good, but difficult about doing the home injections, is that I have to remember to do that every 2 weeks. And I should probably put a recurring thing in my calendar for that, just to remind me. Details in the head at the same time. Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be difficult, because if you have, certainly if you have a lot of things to keep track of, then it's going to be hard to keep that all in your head. Alarm for meds. BBB, it's drugs time. Yeah. I mean, I did take, I was on medication pills for Crohn's for 18 years. Which we stopped a couple months ago, and the way I remember, and that was daily, that was every day, and that was always that was part of the bedtime routine. I made it part of that. It was like, okay, I'm going to bed, which also means I need to take the pills. And that was, I still missed taking them very rarely, once in a while. But because it was daily, didn't have to be at a specific time. I could just fold that into, I'm going to bed, you know, brush teeth, get in bed, take pills, go to sleep. And that was fine. It was folded into the into this other procedure, essentially. And there wasn't any like, yeah, nothing at a specific time or a specific day. It was like, no, every day. Like, oh, okay. So yeah, you know, it's all of this stuff, and then reading about it, you think, okay, it's clearly there's there's a lot of things that have resonated with me, and I've scored highly enough on these tests that I'm like, okay. And also, I'd been doing all of this independently, and then I find out, you know, it was a couple of years ago, but my brother gets in touch and say, hey, can you fill in this thing? It's like, what for? Like, oh, I'm getting assessed for ADHD. I'm like, and there's a strong genetic component to it as well. And I'm like, huh, interesting. I see. I'll put that on the pile. Just put that on the pile of all the other, you know, all the other evidence. It's also very funny because I'm pretty sure, well, I don't know, maybe not like completely sure, but I think at least maybe mum, maybe dad has some form of it or something in common, because a number of times I've been like, oh yeah, and you know, da 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 da, and this is, you know, how this works, and mum says something like, oh no, that's normal, everybody does that. I'm like, no, nah, it's not. I got bad news for you, it isn't. It's no, that's not normal. I think child comes to me like, how did nobody try to test me? Wouldn't focus. Is it like shaking? Well, the interesting thing, I think for me, is like I don't recall like having problems focusing as a child. That's the thing. I didn't have that hyperactivity or like distractibility. I did perfectly well in school. That was never a real problem. I think I definitely did like chase more and more things, because I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this. I want this. I want this. I want this. Like, let's learn about this. Definitely see it. Yeah. I think my thing with me as a kid was not so much like, you know, lack of focus or anything, but it was I was the I've made this joke for years, but it was I basically functioned like it was Johnny Five. It's like, I need input. And it's like, I need more. I need input. I want to do all these things. Yeah. Oh, you too, Duru, huh? Did fine in school, not a troublemaker, got decent grades till I hit uni and had no idea how to go to school? Yeah! Yep. Can't relate to that at all. Yeah, no, that's pretty much exactly what happened to me. Except, well, there was also a large period of illness in there as well. But, yeah, pretty much. And realizing only by the third year that I had basically chosen the wrong degree or the wrong focus. But I wouldn't change it because I had a really good time with the science communication part of things. That was really good. That was a good group. kitchen, he's making toast, having a conversation with sister. Toast pops, he grabs a plate, puts toast on, chatting away. Doesn't get what happened, but he puts the plate into the cupboard and closes the door. Oh no. The dangers of going on autopilot. Yep, task done. Whoop! I've done it. I have made the... I did the thing. Put it away. Yeah. Homework was what killed me the entire time. Yeah. Your teacher last week never did homework and I correct her English. It pissed her off deeply. Yeah. Teachers really don't like it when you correct them. Oh dear. Yeah. I don't remember if homework was a problem for me. I think it was fine. I don't think I didn't enjoy it, but then very few people do. Yeah. I also think that homework is like the fight with the English teacher over couldn't care less. She did not enjoy that. Yeah. Look, language is what's the word? Is it prescriptive, not descriptive? You know, language changes and evolves, but I will die on the hill of couldn't care less. Googling the topic they were talking about as I felt was always fact checking. Yeah. But yeah, man. Funny because both my brother is a teacher and my mum's worked in education for a long time before she retired, but so you know, we've had a lot of talk about schools and schooling, and homework is a really crap way to test people, or to try to educate children. It basically teaches you to hate teachers in school. Like, I don't think there doesn't seem to really be much benefit to it. There's a lot of things that go on in teaching that are not actually about education, that are about trying to get children to do what you tell them to do. And homework, I think, is one of those. Like, they don't actually care about, you know, it's education. It's not about education. It's about, no, you will do what you are told. And, you know, yeah. So, homework, testing, like that. I don't know. Not always, but it can lead that way. Did teacher study for a year? It was like 75% pedagogy, so yeah. Maths at least is useful. There are I mean, I suppose there are probably kinds of things that work. I haven't thought about homework too much, but just sort of, it has to be done well, I suppose. Because I think like the bad teachers and curriculums will just be about, like, we'll assign you something, don't really care what it is or if it helps you at all, you just have to do it, you know. It's obviously written brains of break. Has to serve a purpose. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It has to serve some other purpose beyond just, did you do the homework? You know. Yeah, diverse education options for different brains. It always comes back to that, I think. That's really common in that teachers just don't have, or schools and teachers in a lot of places don't have the funding which will allow them to provide a service, something that can tailor itself to the individual needs of each child, because that is expensive, that costs more, and for whatever reason you want to, you know, they don't have the budget for it, it's been cut or whatever. And it sucks because what that leads to is a very one-size-fits-all type of environment, which just means that a lot of kids fall to the wayside, don't want to be there, don't want to do anything, because they're not being treated properly, they're not being, they're not being catered to, and they're not being, respected in many ways. And it's just because they don't, and it sucks. Because everybody, I mean, there's always going to be shit kids. You can't do away with shit kids. Like, you can't completely get rid of shit kids, but that doesn't mean we can't try to help. Can't try to meet everybody where they want to, meet everyone at their level. And sounds like it's true. But I think like the bad schools, and this is very common here in the UK, like, or at least fairly common. You end up with schools that are not actually, again, like I said, not actually interested in education. They just want to they just want to get the good test results so that they can continue to operate and to it's about the school's success, not about the kids. Like, that's the kind of bad kind of schooling and teaching that is unfortunately very common. Because it's often because of the sort of punitive nature of school inspectors and things like that of Ofsted in this country, where it's like, this is where I get onto my my political soapbox, but it's kind of the conservative mindset of like placing blame and turning things outwards and saying like, it's your fault and you must be punished, despite the fact that they've set an impossible target for you to meet. So, schools are trying to hit certain test results, certain whatever, because those are the targets that have been set for them to meet, and if they don't meet them, their budgets will be cut, or something will they'll get a slap on the wrist, or whatever it is. And so it just forces them, or they decide to, funnel then into just, we have to train up the kids so that they can pass the tests, not so we can actually educate them. The high school is hometown notorious for that because it's free school, privately owned, public access. The school's notorious for being super lax on scoring. And this is what I mean, though. It's like, so yeah, you have this whole, it's just this pressure cooker of like trying to hit results. So we're teaching the kids to pass the tests. So we're just trying to, like, we don't have the funding to actually like properly educate them in a way that they will respond to. And so it just becomes really hard to actually connect with the kids because you don't have enough time in the day to do it. And it's no wonder that a lot of them hate it. Yeah. Because it's all focused towards the wrong goal. Especially considering, like, trying to consider as like education as something that you can quantifiably measure in test results. Because then suddenly you find that a lot of people don't measure up. As soon as it becomes something to be measured, you find like, oh, well, and it is a very specific type of education in very specific subjects, when there's a whole very diverse range of subjects that you could consider education in. Yeah. I never remember. Oh God, I never forget. My mum told. Don't see the effects of it, just the output. Yeah, right. Mum told this. Mum told this story that because many years ago, when she was still working in sort of education and training, would occasionally have to go up to the Department of Education in London for meetings and things of that nature, often for proposals, for bidding on, providing a service or whatever. And I think it was when the government changed. I think it was sort of 2012, something like that, when the Tory government came in. And like up to that point, the lobby of before the Tory government came in, the lobby of the education Department of Education had like some plants and some bright colors and some nice things, and very sort of welcoming and brightly colored and all that sort of stuff. And I forget, there was some sort of display or something there. And then as soon as the Tories came in, I think it was when Michael Gove was Education Secretary, all of that got taken out, replaced with very austere things and a Victorian, like literally a Victorian teacher's lectern underneath, like, with a portrait of Michael Gove or whatever. And that was like, oh, I see. Yeah, right. So it's that's emblematic of the way things have gone. It's rather than being this open and welcoming and we're going to work together, we're going to figure this out. It's like back to Victorian schooling, because all the fucking Tories went to Eton, or in the case of Jacob Rees-Mogg, were actually raised in Victorian times. So this is what I mean in this country when I say it becomes punitive. It becomes stand by, listen up. You're going to measure up, and you've got to do all the things, do all the sums in Latin and everything, and from the top down. It's like, he also knows ancient Enochian. So yeah, there is definitely a lack of, the system for me. Yeah. Big private school our rich politicians get to go to in the middle of a gigantic cheating scandal bodes well for the future. Yeah. But man. Yeah. It's yeah. Many Bontuans die. Yeah. It's yeah. So many of the problems that happen in this country are often that, I don't know. There's that conservative mindset of like, we're going to turn everything outwards, and we're going to like blame and punishment. It's all your fault. And with the Conservatives, with the Tories, it's always somebody else's fault. And they refuse to take any responsibility onto themselves. It's always someone else's fault. It's the school's fault for not meeting our standards. It's the hospital's fault for not meeting their targets, despite the fact that you guys set the standards and the targets, and often to a level that that they can't reach. So that then you can say that they are failing, and then we need to bring in privatization to pick up the slack from all of your friends who have large companies that provide these services. Don't actually care. They don't actually care about, taking care of anybody, education, healthcare, social care. They don't actually give a shit about any of that. No. Anyway, I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people. Yeah. Yeah. Also, the really galling thing is often like the Tories will be like, well, the previous Labour government, well, that was, you've been in power for over 12 years. At what point do you start taking responsibility for your own fucking mess? At what point you accept this is your mess that we're all sitting in? Oh no, Brexit is it's the EU's fault. Brexit is. But shut up. Ah. Dear. Yeah. So. Anyway, we went off on a tangent about education there, but yeah, everything. Yeah, well, I remember at school. I remember it was the thing I remember is like you occasionally. I found this to be true among many people. You know, you always end up remembering like there's often, if you're lucky, there's like a couple of really good teachers who like really stick with you after a long time because they're like, oh, okay, you actually care about this, or you're going to take the time to work with us properly and whatever, you know. Like the thing I remember was that my German teacher, Herr Thomas, he was called, as as we had to refer to him, because towards the end of secondary school, so you know, like you're getting up to 15, 16, before you go into like sixth form college. What was it, 15? I don't know. It was around that time. And I was spending a lot of time at home unwell because I was in the midst of like dealing with Crohn's and everything. And the school basically just didn't know how to deal with that. They didn't have any resources really to deal with a student who was missing a lot of school because they physically couldn't go in. And so he was one of the only teachers who was like, okay, here is the homework. I will send this stuff to you for you to do, or here is the lesson plan for today's thing. Here is what we are doing in the lesson so that you can keep up. And like, and he did that of his own, you know, we didn't have to ask for that. He did that because he's like, right, you're going to be missing this. Here is all the stuff. And basically nobody else did. None of the other teachers did anything like that. And I always remember that. It's like, so the one person who got it. Yeah. Let's see, because he took better teacher. Biology teachers why I went into that field. In hindsight, wasn't a great guy to others. The other thing I remember, it was funny, when I got to GCSE level, and I got to, was it GCSE level or was it AS level? No, it was AS level, yes. So sixth form. We're talking like 17, 18. Also, you know, I don't mean to call out the Americans who, in the chat or elsewhere, but I know that I have to specify what year because I know that internationally you don't, like secondary and sixth form won't mean anything. So, you know, just keep that in mind when you're talking about like fifth grade. Nobody else has any idea what you're talking about. Sorry. Like, just so you know, nobody else knows what that means. Nobody else knows how old like seventh grade is. No one else knows. So this is why I'm clarifying. But when I got to that level, so like 17, 16, 17, 18, like the couple of years before you go off to university, one of the courses I was doing was a media studies course, That's the thing. Like I know, but I know that. That's why but I know that they know that I don't know that, you know. But I was doing the media studies course, and a lot of people in that course, there were a number of people who basically saw it as an easy, just like, this is not a serious, I can take this and just get an easy grade, and I don't have to take this seriously. It's just mucking about with cameras and you know, video, whatever. And the teacher we had, I wish I could remember his name, but he was like, no, you're gonna do, this is an actual serious course, you're gonna do the work or I'm gonna kick you out. Like, we're gonna take this seriously, or you're going to you know, none of you are going to get an easy pass on this. And I was having a great time, because I was like, great, this is what I want. I like doing all this stuff. This is really interesting. A lot of people were like, oh, we can just like fuck around, nobody cares, you know, not do any of the work. And it was like, okay, well then you're gonna fail. And they would get really upset and be like, what? No, you're talking about sir. It's like, don't care, you didn't do it. You know, and that was where I was like, you know, okay, he's actually, you know, taking it seriously. I was like, get to watch movies, being annoying shit about the Martians. This is life. Well, we were doing some like analysis, but we were also, you know, making some things. One thing I remember, there was a really funny time when, God, I remember this. One of our assignments was to make, we were doing like advertising. We were studying advertising, and we had to make an ad for a product. We could choose whatever we wanted. It had to be like a print ad. And we were going to be using the school computers, the computer suite that had, I think, like Photoshop elements on it. And so we would either go and like get stock images or go out. And I went out and took some pictures and did some ads. It made like an ad for a camera, like a digital camera. I just used my one, the one I had at the time, which was like a tiny little silver thing. And so we were working on them in the computer lab with with Photoshop elements, which I also had a copy of on my laptop at the time. So I had been working on it at home. So when I came into the class to do that, I was mostly done. I had it on like a thumb drive, and I was mostly done. So I like just finished it very quickly, and then spent the rest of the lesson walking around helping other people out with theirs. Because I spent a lot of time messing around in Photoshop. I got my start with all of that and graphic design and things like that, making forum signatures. Remember forum signatures? You remember that when that was a thing? Like little banners to go on your forum signature. So we were doing that. And the teacher, he was going around trying to help everybody else as well. And there was one point where someone in the thing was saying, oh, I want to make this in black and white. And they wanted like the background, they wanted things to be in black and white, except for one thing. I think it was like a glass of like a cocktail or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was going past, I overheard the teacher say like, right, so what you're going to want to do is set the image mode to black and white. And I had to, and I was like, no, that's actually not what they want to do. What you're going to want to do is to set a layer, you know, new adjustment layer, black and white onto that layer beneath it, and then maybe like cut out, make a layer mask. And he was like, oh, okay, you clearly know more about that. I was like, yeah, I know more than you. Yeah, okay, let me through. It was very much like, I clearly know more about how to do this. About like using the program than he did. But he was very good about it. It's like, okay, yeah, no, you know what you're talking about. By all means, go ahead. Yeah, it was not defensive about it, which was great. And I basically spent a lot of that lesson doing that sort of thing, going around and being like, does anyone need any help? You know, how do you do this? Oh, you're right, you use this thing or whatever. It was a good time. And I think I got I literally got a 100% on that assignment, like a full grade. Like, yeah. Could not score any higher on that one. So, yeah. That went well. But yeah, good times. I was going to teach about the definition of art was elitist. The definition I understood. Yeah. That's the thing. It was very much the case of, you know, like I say, you know, you get people who think it's easy and think it's, you know, something you can coast through, but there's a lot. There's a lot of depth to that subject, and it's not it's not straightforward. It's not just there's a lot to understand, a lot to unpack. Yeah. And that was part of why I went into doing the science communication part of the course. It's like, you know, by the third year, I said earlier, but it's like I wish I had flipped it the other way around, but well. I very quickly I didn't learn quickly enough that physics was, as a sort of study field, was not the way I wanted to go. It was yeah. We had a project that, I mean, third year of university was when everything fell apart because a variety of reasons, but we had like I don't think it was a dissertation, but it was like a, you know, final year project, and it was a research thing, and we were assigned topics. We didn't get to pick them, I think. We were assigned research things, and mine was, oh god, what was it? I cannot remember the title, but it was essentially fluid dynamics of a sheet. Fluid dynamics in a planar surface over a sphere, or something like that. And I could not think of anything more or anything less interesting to me at the time. I was like, this is the dullest thing I can think of. And, you know, that's for me personally. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would find that really interesting and a fascinating puzzle. But I was like, no, and I am slightly ashamed to admit I never did any work on it. I actually didn't do anything. There were other things going on at the time that we don't have to get into right now, but suffice to say, I was not in a great place, and then I was given this like assignment of the dullest thing I could possibly imagine, and so I was like, nah, I'm just not gonna do this. So yeah, going back to what I said right at the top of this discussion about having a hard time doing things that I'm not interested in. You know, that was a really big one. Analysis has definitely been a topic you get passionate about. Like when people dismiss, a lot of teachers fail to properly teach why literary analysis, in my now in hindsight, especially studying musicology, is an important part of critical thinking. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a big mistake that I see a lot in terms of like teaching it or like talking about literary analysis, and that's not to say that this isn't a valid thing to talk about, but it often tends to be, or it can be focused on trying to pick apart and say, what was the author trying to say? And that's often because that's sort of your first step into decoding metaphor and analysis and all of this sort of stuff. And that's not to say that's a bad thing, but when that's as far as it goes, you can end up in the curtains were just blue territory, you know. trying to decode what somebody meant by that, rather than asking what I think is the more salient question, the more important thing, or maybe the more worthwhile, I don't know, is what meaning can I take from this? Like, it kind of comes around to the death of the author, sort of, where you can be like, you know, it's about what do I see in this? What can I take from this? What can we say about this? Rather than trying to like unpick exactly what it was that the author was trying to say, or what we think they were trying to do with all of this. You know. Yeah, sometimes the thing Jim describes is just set dressing. Other times it's a clue. You figure it out. It's the chair. Sometimes a chair is just a chair. But, you know, it's... Yeah. But, you know, sometimes it's a mimic that eats your butt. Sometimes it is. You don't know until you sit on it. It's really important in all modes. Yeah, I think I think that's the point I guess I'm trying to get across, because it's subjective reading is always important. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Because I think often, you know, you can get hit with, oh well, you know, there was this theme or whatever. And people can respond with like, well, no, the author wasn't trying to do that. They said they weren't trying to do that. They said, oh, that wasn't in, you know, I wasn't trying to go for that. It's like, does that mean it's not there? No. It means they didn't do it on purpose. Yeah. Figuring out themes of things was not helped by a horrific essay going to the horrors of English. Oh, going to honors English, not horrors English. That's a different class. No access to help. I was supposed to read the entire Odyssey and write about the themes of the 7 deadly sins. Ooh, that is a tough call. I mean, at 13 to read the Odyssey, and that's, I mean, it's an honors class, so that's an advanced class, but that's tough. Yeah, with no help and on your own. Ooh, no kidding. Told me if I didn't do the essay, I wouldn't be in honors English, so I didn't do it until my English teacher called my parents to let them know I hadn't done it, and they made me. Oh, that's rough. Oof. Oof, oof. Oh, yeah. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings is not a World War I analogy. Meanwhile, I do believe Tolkien when he says he didn't do it on purpose, you know. You know, it's like, I believe that Tolkien didn't deliberately write it as a World War I analogy. Doesn't mean you can't read it that way. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, 7 deadly sins, the Odyssey, but the Odyssey is in Greek. Well then. That's the same teacher you thought about with Couldn't Care Less. Are we surprised? Yeah. Yeah. Sort of parallels. Yeah. I think it's generally true that, you know, you're not always going to be, when you're making something, you're not always going to be aware of every influence that is going into it, you know. It's like when it was pointed out to me, it's like, hey Hats, how come all of your D&D villains are big capitalists? I'm like, that's true. Wonder why that is. It's a mystery. We'll never know. We can never figure it out. It's impossible to know why that is. Because I wasn't doing that on purpose, but there it is. I need a cartoonishly evil villain that's easy to hate. I know! Billionaires! Yeah. I was smirking. That was also not intentional. Ah, yes. I think it's when I remember when we talked about before Reddit, it was the what was your DM quirk, and I suggested that it was twisting the knife, taking things to that, just turning the dial up on the sort of villainy or whatever it is, just a little bit further, to really kind of twist it up. That was a similar thing. We're like, oh, I guess that's true. Never really go home. Yeah, right. Exactly, Lamb. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Nah. I think I've talked about this before, but I'm always interested in like what was the cultural context? Because as well as what can we read from things now, but what was the context in which this work was released? What did that do at the time? What did that mean at the time? And how that can lead you to a different understanding. Because viewing things that were made, a long time ago, even centuries ago, now will be a very different experience to, I'm not a 16th century Londoner at the Globe Theatre watching Shakespeare. I am here now doing it. And so, it's interesting to try and to pick that apart, to figure out what was the cultural context of the time in which these things were released, and how does that affect a viewing of it. And then you don't even have to go that far back to, like, far enough back that things are slightly different. Like thinking about and also the impact and the world it released into. It's interesting stuff. Okay, this is an example. I've talked about. I think I chatted with some friends about this before. I think it was with Red and others, but there's an example from Armin Shimmerman, who plays Quark, Deep Space Nine, and it was on a podcast listening to called Shuttle Pod Show, which you should check out if you enjoy Star Trek. It's hosted by Dominic Keating, Conor Trenier, who are from Enterprise, that show. But Armin Shimmerman is he studies Shakespeare. He's kind of a Shakespearean scholar, and he teaches courses on it. And he points out that Shakespeare and his peers would have been taught at school the figures of speech, or rhetoric. Would have been taught rhetoric, which was formalized figures of speech, which is the phrase figure of speech is a figure of speech from rhetoric. And there are a bunch of other ones. There's 200 or something. And he pointed out, and he's like, okay, here's a simple thing for you to do. If we understand these, we can understand the context in which Shakespeare is writing. Here's an easy example, which is the figure of speech of antithesis. Antithesis, I think is what it is. Which is taking one idea and comparing it against another. And the easy example is to be or not to be from Hamlet. And, to be or not to be, that is the question, and then the rest of it. And he points out that that is a very easy, you can see that that's a dichotomy. There are two things. They're comparing one thing to the other, and you have to take a perspective on that. So if you're portraying a Hamlet who, because to be or not to be can be viewed as being about existing or not existing, and suicide, because he's in a very depressive state and a lot of play. But if you're playing a Hamlet who wants to live, you emphasize to be and you de-emphasize not to be. And if you are a Hamlet who wants to die, you denigrate the to be, and whatever the opposite of that is, elevate the not to be. I think the word goes to be or not to be, that sort of thing. And that's a really interesting lens to view that through, and that's from understanding the context in which Shakespeare was making this play. And he said that's the easy one, because that's a really famous quote and it's an easy figure of speech to understand. But apparently, like, if you study all of them, you can find a lot more things that will give you a different insight into stuff. It's like, that's cool, that's neat, that's interesting. So yeah. Well, entertainment. Yeah, that's the thing. It's it's deeply funny. It kind of is deeply funny to me. Of like, oh yes, we shall. We must perform it in this highly like elevated, sophisticated style with like dick jokes in it. Yeah, and I think the mistake a lot of like English courses make in school, and this is not like, this often is again lack of funding, but you always end up you often end up reading Shakespeare, or sometimes they will have people read parts aloud from the class. And it is a play, like Shakespeare. Well, apart from like maybe the sonnets, I think, but like they are plays. They are meant to be performed, and reading them is a completely different experience. And it's a shame that, you know, if you want to actually teach it properly, you kind of have to go see it performed. But that involves, you know, funding for a trip out to the theatre, and there has to be a theatre nearby that you can go and see something at. Or perhaps you could do it from the school theatre if they have like a theatre department, but again, you know, it's all funding. And so that's why, you know, people read Shakespeare in school and hate it, because it is just like you're reading a play and it's not being taught very well. Yeah. And they haven't explained all the dirty jokes. And oh my god, if you actually like went through all the dirty jokes in Shakespeare, guarantee you so many more kids would be into it. So many more kids would be having a great time. They'd be like, wait a minute, he's telling filthy jokes. This is great. To get to watch Much Ado About Nothing, followed by the Kenneth Branagh adaptation. Ah, very nice. Speaking of dirty jokes. Oof. There we go. Yeah, bug. Yeah. But it is part of the difficulty of like trying to teach or trying to pass something from 1623. Or like, yeah, from like the early 1600s. Gentleman Verona, I got to see it on the field trip, then brought a copy of the script, showed the script on the right pages, definition, explanation of the jokes on the left. Oh, and oh, very nice. Annotated script. That's good. Yeah, that's actually that's a clever idea. And there's the really fascinating video I've seen. Well, there's a few videos, but of people performing Shakespeare in the accent in which it was most likely performed at the time, which is very different to what we expect. Not just from like the, oh yes, I am Romeo, whatever, etc. You know, is this a dagger I see before me? But just a very different accent to like a London accent or anything that exists now. Well, it's closer to kind of like a West Country sort of thing, because it was pretty much exactly 400 years ago. And turns out accents have changed over the time. And so you end up realizing that, oh, a lot of these jokes and puns actually only work in that accent and only actually rhyme in that accent. and that's why it can seem the dialogue can seem odd and stilted in a modern English accent, because it is you're missing a lot of the wordplay. Like Pixar from hour to hour, which would be more closely pronounced, more accurately at the time. I think it's something like from to from from whore to whore. It's a joke about prostitution. I don't know if that's exactly correct. It's not what I recall from that video, but it might be closer to some of them, some American accents. Yeah. Oh. God, stretching. God, some sore joints. That's what I get for exercising. Damn it. Yeah, you know, I don't know what English. I wonder what is going on of teaching English, or I guess English literature in schools these days. I don't know. My brother is a science teacher, physics teacher, so he's not doing it. But I know he's trying to make that class fun for people. So he's got that going. Yeah. But yeah, you would hope that there's, you know, a better understanding of how to teach this sort of thing. Or is it just like, you know, here are the texts we're going to read. They're all really old. Closer. I always wonder about that, like if it's closer to the accent in Americas today, or if there are just, you know, there are some recognizable bits, because it's very, you know, they have diverged significantly, both coming from the same root. Yeah. Bluff way through book reports first year because the list of allowed books was BS. Tea left in there. Yeah. Yeah. Literally the only book I can remember from English class was Frankenstein. Yeah. It's the only one I can remember that we learned. We probably did other ones, but that's the only one that stuck with me, because I think that was the only one I could actually like I enjoyed reading. I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. I'm trying to recall if there was anything else. All Dutch literature was found boring. The English I got to read a lot more. Way more free there. Ah, interesting. It's interesting you say that, like the Dutch stuff was boring. I wonder if, because like with the English language English classes, you would go back to like classics, a lot of which are just very old, very dry, and not very interesting for, you know, like for a lot of kids. Not that, you know, people don't find it interesting, but like, I don't know, Pride and Prejudice or something. Trying to read like a Jane Austen novel. That will appeal to some people, I suppose, at that age. Whereas if you have more freedom to read other language books, then you can go find whatever. Possibly. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing. It's may be untrue. Then asked me to read Hans Christian Andersen. Oh, Time Machine, War of the Worlds. Yeah, get some H.G. Wells up in there. Yeah. I don't think I could ever. I don't know if we did book reports on other. You know, I don't recall that. It's the only thing. Like I said, Frankenstein's the only thing that I can remember doing as part of my English literature education. Reading English meant I could be like, hey, I'd like to read the Star Wars Thrawn book for class. Oh man. But I don't, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Yeah. I never did anything on Terry Pratchett. Which is, I don't think so, because but it was around that time. It was like, as a teen, that was when I discovered Pratchett from just, I think the first one I read was Feet of Clay from the local library, and I was like, I must have more. And then I got, you know, stuff out of the library, read it over the weekend, go back, get some more, do it again. Like, find all the books, buy some of the books, get the books, must read the books, get the book, that book! Yeah. That's why all the dark fancy nerds in Denmark read Grimm instead of Hans Christian Andersen. Oh, because you had to read it at school? The Shakespeare problem. Yep. School fucked it up. Yeah. Yeah. But no, like, that, yeah. That was, Pratchett was definitely very foundational for me in terms of, I don't know, like a lot of things. Like in terms of like what media I enjoy, what things I like to read, and also very foundational in a lot of like humanist ways, because they're very humanist books, and like sense of humor and things like of that nature. I was like, yeah, that's very foundational. Like, oh, you like Lord of the Rings? How about this book called Sorcery? Oh, yes. That's one way to do it. Sorcery followed by moving pictures. Yeah. I think, you know, what's interesting is like the trajectory of Discworld is that it basically starts out as parody and becomes satire. Like, it starts out as just like, it does start out as just funny, silly fantasy, but over time the series develops an edge and a bite to it, and it becomes satirical, and it becomes like, it starts having points that it wants to make, rather than just making fun of fantasy tropes. And in a way that, like, Feet of Clay, I think, was one of, I don't know if it's like the earliest ones, but because I started with that one, and Feet of Clay has a lot of things to say beyond just being like really funny. And it's about it has lines like, because it's all about the golems and a golem rebellion and whatnot, and have Constable Dorful, who ends up with gives himself a tongue so that he can speak, makes a clay tongue, and so he can speak. And there's a line where one of the priests says, you know, he starts speaking, says, "That's blasphemy." And I think it's Vimes who says, "That's what people always say when the voiceless speak." And I was like, oh, we're not in the vicinity of fucking around here, are we? Oh boy. Also getting like, yeah, it's about, yeah. And I think, yeah, guards is the point where the pivots. It's certainly like one of the big pivots, because that's when he gets into Vimes's head. That's the first book with Commander Vimes. Well, at that time, Sergeant Vimes, I think. Was it Sergeant or Corporal? I forget what rank he was in that book. But that's when he gets into Vimes's head. And Vimes is that sort of like avenue for those kind of thoughts of like being a really cynical bastard but believing people can be better. And once he starts writing to that, it's like, okay, now we're going somewhere. And yeah. So yeah, starting with Feet of Clay, I got a dose of that and I was like, oh, I have to go back for more. And, you know, go back and read the early ones and they're still good, they're still funny and enjoyable, but when you get to the ones where he's like, yeah, guards and is really has some sort of moral or point or some sort of thing is going on in there, that's when it's really good. The interesting thing about guards is I believe I remember reading that initially when he was like planning the novel, he thought, oh, Carrot will be the point of view character for the book, and because it starts out that way with him coming to Ankh-Morpork and joining the Watch and all that. But I think Terry said something like he very quickly ran out of road with Carrot's point of view. He was like, I don't know, having a hard time making this interesting. Because Carrot, at least at the time, was a very simple character. And then he got into Vimes's head. This, like, depressed, cynical, alcoholic policeman bastard with a heart of gold. And it was like, oh, this has a lot. Okay, now we're going. Now I know what to do here. So, you know. Very and to basically picked up that ball and ran with it for a while. Yeah. But yeah, many is the time I would go to the library, see whatever Discworld book they had that I hadn't read yet, take it out, go back home, read it basically non-stop over the weekend, and then repeat this process. It was great for when I was homesick from school. Well, as long as I was awake. Good times. That's who you want. That's who you should teach in English class. Teach Terry Pratchett. That's my opinion. God, you'll learn so many things that you can do with the English language that you didn't think you could. Then we get the Shakespeare problem. Ah, no, you're right. Shit. I think you'd have a slightly easier time, though. I would hope that they wouldn't hate Pratchett as much for being forced to read it. Good stuff. Oh. Yeah, it is true. You're not wrong, Lamb. They'll reject something pretty quickly and they don't have a choice in reading something. Yeah. Yeah, forcing stuff onto kids, it often doesn't, forcing learn this book or learn this thing. Certainly books. Yeah, forcing a book on it, you get a lot of pushback. Especially, well, yeah, a lot of it comes from when you're teaching teens, because teenagers are often just learning for the first time, or, when they're developing their own sense of independence. And then you tell them, no, you have to read this book. A recipe for trouble in a lot of cases. I won't do what you tell me. Hey, what's going on in here? Teenage rebellion. Alright, hell yeah, stick it to the man. It's like, no, you'll all read this book. Like, I'm not gonna. Alright. Yeah. God, I was looking up some Terry Pratchett quotes just to be like, yeah, there's some good stuff you can take away from things. And I just found this one's from Equal Rights, which I've forgotten. It's like, it is well known that a vital ingredient of success is not knowing that what you're attempting can't be done. A person ignorant of the possibility of failure can be a half brick in the path of the bicycle of history. Just, what a great thing. Oh yeah, Guardsman is a civilian. Yeah. That's a great one. It is said that your life flashes before your eyes just before you die. That's true. It's called life. Oh god, I've seen some ones that are not from books, but I like this one. This must be from an interview. It's like, everyone should occasionally break the law in some small and delightful way. It's good for the hygiene of the brain. This quote from Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett says, do crimes. Small and delightful crimes. This is what I mean when I say, like, this is foundational, because it has a lot of things to impart. Like, sometimes it's better to light a flamethrower than to curse the darkness. It's got a whole bunch of them pulled up now. Anyway. Well. I'll start quoting Marathon. No. Sit here and rattle off quotes. But, well, I would do that, but it is 8 o'clock. And I've been chatting for 2.5 hours, more or less. Literature disguised as a video game. It's like many people say, Planescape Torment is one of the best books they've ever read. But you know, that's kind of what I miss. That kind of... I feel like a lot of fantasy now, or a lot of things now, there's a sort of, I'm missing that kind of this thing about Planescape and Pratchett. There's a sort of, I'm trying to think of a word for it, but that kind of design that was very Jim Henson, very Brian Froud, very, for lack of a better word, scrungly. Scrungly whimsy, I'm gonna say. Where it's just kind of, you know, not clean, it's kind of scrimsy, yeah. It's scrungly whimsy. It's all just a little bit scrunched up and not quite perfect lines and all just kind of janky, but has a whole lot of charm to it. Kind of miss that. Rather than everything being very shiny and polished and whatnot. You know. Think of like a Labyrinth, the movie with David Bowie, or Dark Crystal. Yeah. That was what was really nice about the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Because that was such a great show. Cancelled too soon. Bloody Netflix. That was appropriately scrungly, I thought. It's the thing. I think it should be a little bit, a little bit janky. A little bit janky. Embrace the jank. Don't try and make it too perfect. Listen, I've sat through classic Doctor Who with wobbly cardboard sets and terrible costumes. I'm just saying, I can take the jank. Bring it back. That's what I want. Yeah, man. It was so... Man. It was such a good show, and there were so many good puppets and good practical... It was great. It was... And then they cancelled it because... Warframe's art style device because it's weird and biomechanical, there's no clean. Hey, you know, respect them for taking an aesthetic stance. I think that's why I can bring it back to Farscape. Like Jim Henson, again, very scrungly, very janky, very weird and puppety, and yeah. I have seen the D&D movie Lamb. I have seen it because it is available on streaming platforms. No, I have seen it, and they used some great practical effects. The Dragonborn and the Aarakocra in the beginning, and there's a Tabaxi as well. Like, don't get me wrong, there were some great visual effects, some great CGI in there as well, but I was like, oh, practical effects. I love it. Yeah. It was great. That was a good time, that movie. A very good time. Yeah. But yeah, I think I don't know how you bring it back exactly, but I do kind of miss the jank look of a lot of older stuff. But like in an entertaining one, you know. It's I guess you just use more practical effects. That's one way to start doing that. And I hate to say it, but God, there's definitely a trend with, like, you know, concept art or digital art or something, you know, trending towards a very clean, very utilitarian style, and there's like, you know, yeah, restraints, timeless and thousands, yeah. But like, I'm just thinking of like, you know, the homogenization of a lot of like aesthetic just into a very specifically like going for like what is technically proficient rather than like something with some character to it. You know? It's like more to art than just technical proficiency of making something. And yeah, that is because of how VFX is treated in movies, for sure. For sure. It just is like, it is the sort of factory just cranking out as much as they can. And you know, it's a real shame because, yeah, treat them better, pay them better, and get some, you know, give them the freedom to make big decisions, to actually swing for the fences and make something that looks distinct. So many times you see like really cool concept art that then gets pared down until it becomes just looking like everything else. You're like, ah, man. Make it smaller. God, I was thinking of that, Drew. I was just thinking that with the She-Hulk show where they were like, make her smaller, make her smaller. God damn it. I mean, that's a whole other bunch of issues as well, of like, God forbid we have a buff woman in the She-Hulk show. Like, come on! Yeah. CEO's clearly unactive on the internet. Yeah. Audience love big. It's true. Audiences love. I don't know. Maybe they'll fix that for if they get a season 2. Who knows? God, like, what's the other really the recent popular example of that? Right, Luisa from Encanto, where the animators had to really actually fight to make her like strong and like look strong, and they were like, exactly like, you know, oh no one's gonna want this, no one's gonna relate to or want this character, and her dolls sold stupid amounts, like one of the most popular toys from that thing, and like, you see I'm telling you, the audience is there. By far the most popular character among children. Right, exactly. Like, executives don't know what the hell they're talking about. I will say it's also been interesting because I have noticed, you know, you notice that, and now people are talking like, yes, we want the big lady, we want the big lady. God, if Resident Evil 7 was anything to go by, gamers very much want the big lady to step on them. But that was not the case, like that was not the prevailing opinion like 10 years ago, I feel like. I feel like that has changed. That has become, you know, and you know, that's a good thing, but you know, that's a change in internet culture. Gotten more on. That's what it is. Gotten more honest with our interests. Yeah. Which country had the big lady at Eurovision? Was it France? It was France. That's right. Yeah. It's just. But yeah, I mean. But that's the thing. If it wasn't the thing, maybe like 10 years ago, then you can't. Then I guess you can't expect CEOs to know about it, because they're at least that far behind, if not more. 14 is based on exclusive relegated dump because they're told. God. Like, Is that the? No, I feel like I heard about that. I don't remember which one it is, but amongst players, not in the story. I mean, yes, I assumed as much. Yeah. But yeah. Sorry, don't remember. It's a different person. Goodness sake. I wonder, you know, I can't help but think, like, what role does, you know, like, you know, internet culture and the spreading of, like, memes and, like, can help to spread the acceptance of certain things, or the, you know, can change the culture, obviously. So I'm like, I wonder how much that was affected by, you know, the preponderance of sharing, what was it, like, various memes, like the, what's the one of Spike Spiegel? Where it's like, I like the kind of woman who can kick my ass. It's like the share of the can track the acceptance of, or the proliferation of these things. I don't know. I don't remember if that's actually like a like, that's got to be a line from the, like, yeah, like, I can never tell. It's like, is this a line or is this like an edit someone made? Like, I know you're here, Dracula, you big fucking nerd, where's my money? I wish that was a real Moon Knight panel, but it isn't. Find the balance where it's a joke, though. It's hard. A lot of streamers just use it for engagement. Yeah, that's true. Well, playing to the crowd. Gotta get those clicks. Academic talk about queering a lot, which is basically going against societal norms and queering this whole thing. It goes against the masculine ideal that men should be dominant. Ah, yes, this is true. This is true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of things being challenged that way, and it's like, yeah, it's wild. I mean, well, to see how much, like, you realize how much stuff is, like, I don't know, held back or affected by that. Like, oh right, yeah, it's kind of everywhere. Bands are authentic. Yeah, I do think. I don't know. I think, to me, the thing about, like, queer baiting or things of that nature is that, to me, is like a, you know, it has to be a deliberate attempt to curry favor or to court that audience without actually intending on delivering the thing that you want them to, that they want you to, rather than just not doing something that, you know, like, like, I'm thinking of the example with, like, Supergirl, where they had a lot of chemistry between Supergirl and Lena Luthor. I remember this from being on Tumblr at the time, and they had great chemistry together, and they had a lot of friendship scenes, a lot of scenes together. And I'm trying to recall, I don't know if it was like, if they were trying to make it look like they were gonna go into a relationship, but I don't know. If you know anything about this, you know, media and CW, it's pretty clear that, like, no, they're not going to do this. And it's just, they have good chemistry and they have a lot of scenes together, but they don't, like, I don't know if they string you along. I don't know. I didn't watch it closely enough to know if that was, you know, the genuine article or not. But basically, like, not confirming your headcanon doesn't necessarily make something queerbaiting. I think is the thing about that. There's a whole other side of, you know, internet culture and headcanons and getting mad when the show doesn't do it. And it's like, I understand. I get it. If you're like wanting two characters to get together and they don't. Or whatever, something to be, you know, whatever it is. But it's basically just like, my thought is like, it's perfectly fine to have your headcanon and to have like, I think so and so should get together. Just don't expect the media to do it. Like, don't expect it from them. Like, that is putting on clown makeup and clown shoes, being like, they're definitely going to confirm this, my headcanon. Like, like, have them, but they're your own fun, private thing for you. And if you expect, like, creators to, don't, oh god, Voltron. I remember hearing about that as well. Yeah, bully the creators and confirming your headcanon. It's like, don't do that. It's like, I may, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Just remember that these are, you know, and it's your reading of things. And that's no more or less valid than anyone else's, but it is unique to you. And other people are not necessarily going to see it that way. Again, this kind of comes back to like being taught to analyze media and realize, you know, to not jump to the conclusion that, oh, this is obviously what they're clearly implying, and this is clearly what they intend. And it's like, no, this is what you are taking away from it. That's different. You know, you're coming from that point of view. It's like, oh, I ship these two together, or this thing can happen, or whatever. But, you know, don't make the mistake of assuming intent based on your headcanon. And so, therefore, don't be surprised if it doesn't end up being true. Yeah. Also, an issue people deny queer relationships. Oh yeah, I mean, people deny textual things as well because they don't want. Yeah. Listen, if you want. Yeah. Oh my god, they were roommates. Yeah. Oh, wait. Turn this off now. Yeah. Couple in 14 where they basically hit you with a sledgehammer going, these two are gay for each other, but only stop short of having them actually kiss, and people are like, why can't they just be friends? Yeah. I think there's always a whole mix of things. Yeah, just counts being pal. There's always a whole mix of things going on, you know, when you're trying to look for various representation, because, you know, I both want to see more, you know, non-heteronormative relationships, but I also think there are other things that are like not represented well, like, for example, a non-toxic, like, you know, friendships between two male characters, or like a variety of things. So, you know, it always yeah, I don't know. My thing is just like, pushing for more of what I want, and I will take what I can get. You know, more Mimir Kratos friendships. Yeah, that's good stuff. John Martin was a good one from Magnus. Oh yeah, that was fun. Funny handsome and best room in front of a giant rainbow crystal in reference to one of the Final Fantasy games that explicitly is about romantic love. So historians will say they were very good friends. God, it's not even to get onto the. Oh God, you know what? This is my own personal one that I get annoyed at, but God, I'm trying to think how to put it, but I would say bi representation is a real fucking minefield, because it's often like we can't have the bi character in a straight relationship. How else will they know? Or we have to. They basically just. Or we assume that we put someone in a relationship with someone of the same gender and a different gender, like, oh, they're gay now. It's like, no, the bi people exist. Bi people exist. Diet gay, that's the way to put it. Yes, Pix. It's like, come on. Yeah. Well, you end up the other one is often like they end up being like the really promiscuous character because they end up dating everybody, and that's not a great stereotype. That's a pretty like all bi people are very promiscuous. It's like that's not no. Speaking from personal experience, but actual relationships that aren't just sexual tension, release created during situations of extreme stress over long periods of time. Yeah. This is why, the more we include a diverse group of people in the storytelling process, the more, varied and authentic stories we're going to end up getting. That's what it comes down to. And we do have to also not let perfect be the enemy of good, I suppose, because we can take things as a win even if they're not completely exactly what we want. The step in the right direction is still a good thing. From me at least, you get points for trying. And just remember how hard some creators have to fight to get some of the stuff they want. Like, I know Steven Universe has come under a lot of shit from the fandom, a lot of it not deserved, because fans are entitled babies. That's my that's my opinion. But like how hard, for example, Rebecca Sugar had to fight to get the wedding episode to even exist. And it's like, and you're gonna rail on them for not having completely perfect representation or whatever. It's like, you have any idea how hard they had to fight to get it done at all? Yeah, we can still say this isn't what this isn't where I want it to be, but we can celebrate the fact that they pushed it through all the corporate bullshit, that it happened at all. I remember we got networks breathing down their necks and bullshit like that. Yeah. But yeah, the more we platform a diverse variety of creators, the better that will be. Yeah. About how the song "How Here Comes a Thought" was a response to fan criticism. Ooh, God, it's been a long time since I heard that song, but that's interesting. yeah, I can't imagine the pressure you must be under as a showrunner for that show, or for a lot of shows really. But it really felt like, yeah, I was trying to have a good relationship with the fan base, but they are frequently horrible. And for why? Fans. Can't live with them, can't live without them. I don't know. But yeah, I think what we were saying earlier was right. If we had better tools, better education for, you know, analyzing media, maybe we'd be in a better place with all of that sort of stuff. Maybe that would be good, but who knows? I would hope so, you know? And, you know, I don't pretend that I'm perfect at it, but I like to think I try to think about it. Beyond just, oh, this thing bad. Who knows? Oh. Anyway, it is 8:30. I think that's a stream. It was a good hangout and a good chat. Didn't actually end up doing any gaming today, but I figured that might happen. That's okay. I just enjoy hanging out and chatting with all of you. We had some very interesting discussions today about all sorts of things. Should really get around to booking that diagnosis. You know, really should do that. Anyway, I'm gonna go get some food because that's gonna be it for me today, and and I will say thank you all for hanging out and chatting. Yeah. Oh god, you're right. You're right, Lamb. I agree. That's all I'll say. Otherwise, we'll be stuck here for another half an hour. But yeah. That's it for me. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I may do some more gaming. I probably should do some more gaming at some point. Although, no one's making me, so who knows. I just know that I'll probably run out of things to talk about. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Same hat time, same hat channel. And don't forget, if you want to support stream, or if you want to catch any VODs, we'll do that first. Go to the YouTubes. New VODs go up every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and if you want to support the stream, you can sub on Twitch, you can join the Patreon, or you can get stuff at Yonder Store, where you can buy shirts and mugs and stickers and hoodies, indeed. But that's it from me, and I will hopefully see you next time. I think HP is going, and I think he's going to keep going. He's been streaming for like a long time, playing playing Tears of the Kingdom. They've been pretty long streams, so let me just check that he's not going offline or anything, and then we'll send you over there, because I don't often get to raid HP because he's usually streaming at a different time. Anyway, I am now going to properly sign off, and I will see you around. Thanks for watching. Have a good week. Bye. There we go. Bye.